Welcome to Podpinions, where the world's on fire, and we show up like it's a backyard barbecue. Politicians roasted, woke trends torched, common sense, we got you covered.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Podpinions, another fun-filled week of opinions and pods and all that good stuff.
Pods?
Yes.
Reminds me of a sci-fi movie.
Yes.
I'm Rich.
And I'm Bruce.
And we're back.
Yes, once again, like it or not.
So, big jam-packed week with stuff.
Yeah. It's like goes from one extreme to the next.
It's unbelievable.
Yep.
I've never seen anything like this in my life ever.
Yep.
You know, like especially with this flash flooding in Texas, I woke up to that and was like, "Whoa!"
Right, and it's like it was nowhere to be found as far as usually all the networks are tracking major storms or
Right.
tornadoes or whatever, and apparently they've got some notifications there, but
Right.
as far as nationally,
according to what I've been reading, this flood or the floods were more deadly than Hurricane Harvey, which I vaguely remember that one.
Mm-hmm.
But Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, said as of today, 161 people are still missing in
Wow.
Kerr County, which is where that flood was, where that camp was.
right. And it was all rain. It wasn't as far as
No dam burst or anything.
or anything. Right.
What I don't understand, though, is, okay, so in Northeast PA, where we are, in the Poconos, there was a huge flood in 1955. I mean, like, devastating. And it was rain, and I believe, well, I don't know all the details, but it was bad. But what they did after the flood was they did all this flood control.
Mm-hmm.
And the Broadhead Creek, which down towards Stroudsburg, you can see these big, huge, where they dug it out.
Yeah, I think the Army Corps of Engineers
and
did
then
that,
it was
right?
levees and whatnot, so it doesn't flood anymore.
Right.
Why? Now they know that this is like a flood zone.
Mm-hmm.
Why not do something to correct
Right.
it?
Well,
Because they've had major floods there before.
They're going to have to look into that now. That's for sure.
Oh, man, I couldn't believe some of the videos I was watching.
Yeah. And I saw a time-lapse video of, you had to, I don't know, they were first responders or whatever, parked by the river there. And it was a time-lapse of the river just expanding.
Oh, getting bigger. I saw that.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of
So,
creepy.
Yeah.
Then there was another video. We watched it this morning, my wife and I, and it was sort of the same thing, but different location. There's a bunch of people standing there. There's this little bridge going over this, going over the river, and these people are standing there with their phones, videoing the river. And the next thing you know, there's little kids like yelling. It's like, "Don't you think we should run?"
Right.
It was like,
Right.
it took the bridge out.
Right. Yeah, I've seen the one, that metal bridge or whatever, just kind
Yeah,
of.
it just took off.
Yep.
This is just a little bridge over. It looked like a creek of some sort.
Right.
Evidently, it was the Guadalupe River.
Right. That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Well, you see videos of not just this one, but flood, but people driving through the floodwaters and.
All right. That I don't get at all, because I know where I live, we're basically on this little island. It's not an island, but it's the lake is across the street from the house. There's a stream that feeds the lake, maybe a quarter of a mile away on one side and maybe 200 yards on the other side. There's another stream, and when it gets bad, the road floods, right? And then one bridge floods, and you may get like 6 or 7 inches of water, but you don't know.
Right. What's going on underneath there?
Yeah, I'm not going to drive through that, even with even with my truck.
Right.
I'm not going to drive through that. That's just nuts.
Well, plus, through when you get your license, you study, they talk about hydroplaning and that sort of thing. you're not going fast enough, but then you got moving water underneath you. I mean, at some point,
you start floating, and then woo,
that's
gone.
it, gone. So don't do that. If you got a flood water, don't drive through it.
Scary.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely not worth it.
And the most, devastating thing is just all these kids that were at the camp.
Really sad. But what I don't understand either is, like, according to this, the Wireless Emergency Alert, WEA, which comes over all your cell phones, and it has nothing, like, if you're on the phone, you're still going to get the notification. And they don't need, it's from government agencies. And during critical situations such as tornadoes, flash floods, or Amber Alerts, FEMA said the messages show the type and time of the alert, any action people in the impacted area should take, and the agency issuing the alert. So they're issued by federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial public alerting authorities. Evidently, each group has their own thing. And any mobile device in a locally targeted area is going to get this thing. I mean, I've got them, like Amber Alerts.
Oh,
like
yeah,
your phone will
right.
go off.
Yep.
Or a tornado warning.
Yeah.
Storm. I just got a storm warning this morning.
Yep.
And what happened? We had
Right. But the alert, it has that tone.
Right.
And if you're in the someplace with a bunch of people, it's like they all go off at once.
Exactly.
And everybody's phone is.
But so that's why I don't understand. Well, I saw a lady on the news this morning. They were talking about it, and she said, yeah, she got her alert on her phone, but she goes, it's like an Amber Alert, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. We get these all the time. So, and I mean, thank God she survived, but
Right.
she rode out the storm in her kayak with her 2 dogs.
Right.
In the house. Like, the kayak was in the house.
Oh, it was inside the house.
And she was floating,
Wow.
she said. It was pretty
Wow.
creepy.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really devastating. But I guess some people had to have gotten the alerts, obviously, because there would have been more
Casualties. And granted, it did happen really early in the morning.
Right. So, I don't know what the cell service is by that camp or whatever, or
who, yeah.
did people have their phones off?
What's getting me angry, though, is the lefties are blaming Trump for this.
Right.
Like, how is this his fault?
Right. It's just they take every opportunity to blame whatever on somebody, and just
because the alerts were, the
Right.
alerts went out. So
Yeah.
how is this Trump's fault?
right. No, it's not. It's not Trump's fault. All they're doing is looking for an excuse any way they can to sway people's view. In my opinion,
I read
my opinion.
some moron on Facebook today was yes, you are a moron for saying this, but he was saying that because Trump cut federal funding to whatever organization it was, the alerts didn't go out,
No,
which is
that's-
nonsense because they did go out.
Right.
Multiple times.
It's not true. And how come Facebook or whoever controls this stuff is allowing this? Disinformation and misinformation. Remember all the hoopla about everything else?
And then the National Weather Service sent out repeated warnings. So I don't understand why they're blaming him,
Yeah.
other than what you just said.
Yeah. No, it's not. I saw a clip of Rosie O'Donnell, I guess it was.
Please.
Blaming basically people supporting Trump that, you're getting what you deserve and all this stuff. And it's just sick. It's sick. It's like, just knock it off. And just people just got to grow up and get a real life, get off, hating on everybody for one side of the political system. You know what I mean? It's just done. I mean, I'm done. I don't view myself as any one party. I did switch to Republican because I wanted to vote in a primary, but I was independent my whole life.
Really?
So, yeah.
I did not know that.
Even though I leaned to conservative,
every day.
I didn't. I don't. I have my values, and again back to the circle.
I mean, I look at myself. Yes, I'm conservative, but I look at myself as a common sense conservative.
Right.
To me, it's like here.
Right.
I just.
Yeah. I'm not jumping off a bridge just because somebody else does. I'm not. And
that wouldn't be any fun either.
No. But I anything these wingnuts get in their brain, they're just willing to go to the world's end to try and defend it or support it or whatever, and it's just craziness.
Well, getting back to this flooding, and there was a timeline, and a couple different news outlets actually put the timeline up of when these notifications went out, and they started the NWS offices in Austin and San Antonio, and I'm surprised San Antonio didn't get whacked with the Riverwalk, right through the middle of town there. The San Antonio River going right through the middle. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No.
But the San Antonio River goes right through the middle of town. And they got the touristy area there called the Riverwalk, and you walk along the side of the river. And I'm just surprised that didn't get flooded because they got a lot of rain too.
Right.
But I think maybe, I don't know for sure, but I think their flood control is a lot better than where this was. But they were saying that on the morning of July 4th, they were given preliminary lead times of more than 3 hours of warnings. So these people had like 3 hours of warnings and didn't leave.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's up to, years ago you saw, the where's it, New Orleans, when that all happened, the hurricane come in,
Katrina,
and people wouldn't leave.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean that does happen as far as
But these people,
choice.
from what I gather, correct me if I'm wrong. Put it in the comments below. But correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of these people got the warning on their phone and ignored it, thinking, it's just another, it's another warning.
Yep. Yeah.
Just like we get all those storm warnings here for like today was wind and rain, right?
Yeah.
And I pretty much ignore those.
Right. Yeah, but when that tone goes off, I have to look.
Oh, I definitely look.
But
then it's like, it's just another, wind. Big deal.
Yeah. No. And unfortunately, this is what happens when you don't follow what they suggest you do. But again, it's like, and we've talked, so I know you feel the same way. It's like, why are we talking about this? Why are we doing this now? We should be focused on the families, the kids,
absolutely,
that were killed. And why is this talk? Why is this political again? It's because politics have gotten their tentacles in every freaking aspect of our life, and it's, again, you got to pay attention. I don't follow politics. Well, it's in your life whether you want it or not, so you better pay attention, because if not, what happened the last 4 years is definitely going to continue. And you have to pay attention. Again, it's from local, state, federal. Everything's focused on federal right now. But
okay. So, for example, the NWS said the first reports from the Kerr County Sheriff's Office of flooding at low water crossings had 201 minutes of lead time. So that's what?
3 hours and 20 minutes.
You. So they had 3 hours and 20 minutes.
He was checking to see if I could make change.
That's another one. Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. Another Dunkin' Donuts escapade. But they had like two hours plus again, right? 3 hours, whatever it was, and these people ignored it.
Yeah,
and that was the local guys that put the warning out, the sheriff's office.
And again, I mean, that's when you're told this is what's going to happen, and then you don't react to that, it's on you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's not first responders. I mean, families can't, blame that on all this happening because they did what they needed to do, and at some point you take responsibility for yourself.
Absolutely. Now, here's my question. All right. Now, we can keep going with this timeline thing. An hour later, the National Water Center area hydraulic discussion number 146 included concern about considerable widespread flooding throughout the day. The flood hazard outlook was upgraded to considerable and catastrophic. A flash flood emergency was issued for the Guadalupe River at 5:34 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all this other stuff happened like after that, right? But I don't know if you saw the Carolinas with that hurricane that hit like over the weekend.
Yeah.
It's like underwater.
Right.
And nobody's even talking about it.
Right. Well, this is again, it's become political, Trump and federal cuts, and so they're focusing on this instead of.
Yeah, but what about the poor people in the Carolinas?
Well, that's what
again?
I'm saying. They're focusing on this.
The people in Carolina are getting screwed again.
Yep. And they're getting forgotten.
Now here, FEMA's there. The Red Cross went. They've got the same guys that were at Katrina in the boats. I forget what the Cajun Navy, right? All those guys. And then they've got off-duty Navy SEALs, retired Navy SEALs, all going to Texas to help out with the recovery efforts. But poor people in the Carolinas are screwed yet again. Mm-hmm. That just bugs me.
Yeah, no. If it's not on the TV, it's like nobody thinks about it. You know, it's programming. It's programming. That's what they did.
Now Trump is supposedly going to Texas on Friday, and he doesn't want it to be about him. He said that already to the news people. Now whether they follow his lead or not,
right? I
don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll see on that. It's nonsense. It's you know, the problem is everybody seems to be trying to pin the blame on somebody when people got to take it upon themselves, and you know, it's like safety warnings, or you know, you got to put some kind of note on about icy sidewalk or something. That's like, it's frickin' snowing, it's 7 degrees out, there's going to be ice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know all about that.
So let's let's take some responsibility and for ourselves and your neighbors. And if somebody's not moving, I mean, obviously you can't make them go, but tell them, hey, listen, this is real. You gotta.
But I just can't believe that. After I was looking at 1932, they had a huge flood there, right? And there was subsequent ones after that. But why wouldn't you, knowing it's a flood zone and flash flood zone because of the way the contour of the, they're talking about mountainous, whatever, hilly, whatever, hill country, that you wouldn't have somebody come in there and do what they did here and put in levees and everything else to contain the water so it doesn't flood.
Yeah, they should. But again, just look at locally down on the Delaware at those houses that flood out every freaking. Yeah, every.
We're gonna take a quick break, folks.
Hey, everybody, back again. Sorry about that.
Little phone interruption.
Yep, that's what happens when you're doing 20 things at once.
That's right. We're multitaskers.
Yes.
I can chew gum and walk at the same time.
Most of the time.
So, all right. So the big one. I got a text message from one of our fans, and he wanted to know how come this whole Epstein file thing, right?
Yep.
Pam Bondi said that the files were there, sitting on her desk. There were, but there are no lists now, no Epstein lists. Yet she had said their file was on her desk along with JFK files, Area 51 files, all to be reviewed and handed over to.
Weren't they reviewing the videos or something like that was confiscated or something like that?
And then Bongino, the assistant head of the FBI, right, said that there was all kinds of stuff going on, and he read the whole file, saw all the video, and
now it's supposedly there are
gone. And Megyn Kelly, I guess, last year proved that this thing existed. So what is going on?
What is going on? So, and the big question is, if they start denying it or that there were ever files, I don't know whether that's true. I've heard a couple things that now they're possibility saying it wasn't all the files that were supposed to be, or there weren't any, then why is Ghislaine Maxwell
in jail?
Or Maxine, or whatever her name is.
No, it's
Epstein, Ghislaine.
Yeah, however you say it, Maxwell.
So why is she in jail then?
Good question.
So
the plot thickens.
I don't know what is going on there. I really don't know. But it's not making the group of people that expected this to happen and voted for this to happen, all this stuff to be released, and it's not being released.
Well, I'm kind of upset about it.
Yeah.
The Kennedy thing, the Martin Luther King stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Area 51 especially.
So if it's for national security, if we're going towards socialism, communism, Marxism, whatever it is that is right outside of our front door now, isn't it in the best interest of the country to make sure this stuff gets released, so you're not hiding anything? Or
absolutely,
I would, you know, there's the theories that there's important people, and you know,
well, I'm sure there are important people
that are on the list, and you know, what's his name?
Bill Clinton,
Prince Andrew.
Oh,
Bill Clinton.
And even if Trump was on the list, then he should be held accountable.
No, absolutely, absolutely,
regardless of who it is. But there's probably a ton of congressmen and senators, governors,
right,
actors.
So that's in the nation's best interest. If they're hiding that, and everything is moving towards destroying our republic, it's in our best interest to release it. And the wealthy, the elite, they failed us, and they need to be exposed as far as I'm concerned. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're running the country. I don't care how much money you have. If your goal is to hide and let the country and the world, basically, because it's not just the country, it's the world, fail just because you did something wrong, well, then it's time to expose your ass.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel.
Yep.
And Trump, if you ever get the glimpse to see this clip, you need to release it and do the right thing if that's
he promised
what the problem
is.
It. So
all of that stuff.
You know, and all the other people that are on there, you know, I put a clip of Paul Harvey explaining, you know, the people that were involved in the Declaration of, or the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and you know, those people.
Well, that was on the last episode.
Yeah, I just put the clip on, you know, at the end. But if you look at the history, now I know people have families and they have loved ones and they have wealth, they got power, but the people that started this country lost everything. You know, most of them lost everything. Families, wealth, health.
Possessions, everything.
And if you're not willing to do that when you take these positions, and you say you take these positions and that's what you're up for, you need to be up for it.
Because, well, you take an oath.
Yeah, well, it's not even an oath. It's just in you, because people are going to come at you, and they're going to come after your family. I mean, look what happened to General Flynn, you know, with his thing. They basically stopped going after him, and then they turned to going after his son. And basically he had to make a
choice,
a deal,
right,
you know, or a choice, let his son come under fire of all this bull crap, or make a deal saying that he's responsible for it. And that's going to happen, unfortunately. And it happens not just in Washington, D.C.
No, it's everywhere.
But if you're some kind of civil servant, or you want a position, or even
Even in the corporate world.
Even working at some department store, there's politics in that from just ordinary people.
It's everywhere.
So if you're not willing to just say, screw you, I don't care who you are, then you don't deserve to be in that position, and you need to step aside to put somebody that is in that position, because that's what we need. And Trump speaks his mind and is very straightforward, but it has to be the group that's supporting him that has to do the same thing, and they have to be willing to give up everything to make this happen.
It's called integrity.
Yeah, and I don't know that all of them either.
No, I think there's some in there that just you still got to weed some out.
Mm-hmm. But also, it's turned into a reality TV show. You got Congress, you got senators. They're all getting
just
TV
look at this
time.
nonsense with Chuck Schumer
Right.
this past week with that
Reading
bill.
the bill. It's all a game. And people are dying out here. Kids are dying in a freaking flood. I don't care who they think they are or how powerful they are. They're failing us. And whatever party you belong to or whatever process you belong to, you have to understand they're failing us. And it's the everyday people that are making this world go around. It's not the elites. If we didn't have the iPhones, we'd still be, getting some kind of communication, whether
Using a payphone on the corner,
or payphone, or even before that. The Pony Express, and I mean, you had runners going. The king sent a runner out.
Right.
So humans find a way to survive, and it's convenient, but is it really convenient if you're giving up your life?
No, it's but we all do on some level.
Yeah, but it's just got to get back into understanding that it is just the everyday person that will never be famous, will never have a plaque, will never be remembered other than from their family, that's who makes this world go around. And
I mean, some of the people who had a major impact on me growing up, teachers and whatnot, they're not famous.
Mm-hmm.
They did, but they made like a major impact.
Right.
And there's a couple. I had a drafting teacher in high school, Dave Bast, and he just passed away a couple of years ago. But that guy, he was amazing,
Mm-hmm.
and he really had an impact on me
Mm-hmm.
as far as the rest of my life going forward.
Right.
And I got to say thank you many years later because I didn't appreciate it in the moment.
Right. And that's
But
the
the guy
thing.
was hard on me.
Yeah. When you're young, you don't understand. You think you do. you
No,
think
I
you
didn't-
understand.
I didn't then, but I totally get it
The
now.
world's a tough place, and you got to be, you got to have enough integrity to be able to stand up to it, and just give it in, and going and hiding in a safe space is not going to
No, if you bury your head in the sand, what's the
help
point?
humanity.
No, seriously, what's the point? If you bury your head in the sand or
Right.
ignore what's going on around you, what is
Right.
the point of
Exactly.
even being here?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't care. Yes, I was in show business and still am, but if I put that aside, right? To me, making an impact or making a difference in somebody's life, regardless of who the person is, or just I can't explain it, but just making a difference in this world on some level means more to me than any fame in the world.
Exactly.
If I could touch one life
Yep.
and help that person out, or have them see their potential, that's when the light bulb goes off, like with a trumpet player, right? And they'll ask me for help, right? And when that light bulb goes off, that's it. I'm done. That made my day.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's just that little something that helps somebody else, or, like you said, impacted their life a little bit. That's what we're here for. It's not.
You would think, but how many people are just out for themselves?
Oh, it's
disgusting.
No, it's out of control. It's out of control. Nobody cares. They just want what's best for them. They could care less, and they destroy people's lives, and they don't even think about it
at all.
They just want everybody to look at them and look how great I am, and that's so
just
not
like
what life
just
is
like
about.
The kid at Dunkin' Donuts this morning. Nice segue, right? I have to tell this. So this morning, stop again for toasted bagel, cream cheese, medium hot coffee, cream and sugar. Comes out to $6.76. I give the kid $7.01. Guess what happened?
Get change back?
I got 24 cents back. I said, well, where's my quarter? This is the same kid. Like, every day this happens, right? You'd think he'd get it by now. So I said, I get a quarter back. No, 24 cents. I said, how are you figuring that out? He goes, well, the register told me. I said, well, obviously you didn't put the penny in when you keyed it in. So you had to actually have the manager come over to, like, void out the sale and start over again. And then he hands me a pile of change and 1 penny. It's like, are you kidding me? I looked at this kid and I said, are you really that stupid? I want a quarter back.
Yeah. No.
I just, like, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
I don't understand
and
it.
the problem is, the real problem is, that person is screwed going forward, because it's almost like when kids had to work for their families, they had to quit school at 4th grade or something and go on a farm.
Work on a farm.
They couldn't read. They couldn't write. This is the same type of thing.
But this kid he went to school, obviously, but they're not teaching that.
Well, that's the point, is that the schools are failing them. And
this kid could not do the math, a simple math problem.
Right. Because he wasn't taught that. It was whatever that they were taught.
Okay, so all my teacher buddies out there, in the comments, or any teachers out there, please explain to us why this is happening, why they're not being taught math or English or grammar that you use in real life.
Right.
This really makes me nuts.
Yep. No, it's true. And guess who's paying for that? Taxes. So
our school taxes went up 35% this year.
Well, it's that penny.
For what?
That penny.
Oh, the 1 penny? No, seriously.
No, it's true. And what there's, well, you heard all the stuff. Well, I'm either trying to keep my head low, keep out of the way, or the school doesn't get federal funding unless we graduate this many people.
Well, that's bullshit. Pardon my language, but that's total bullshit.
But that's the same getting back to
that's quota.
That's
like a quota system. It's like, we have to graduate X amount of kids, even though they're morons,
right?
And they should be in 3rd grade.
Absolutely. And it's going back to the founding fathers, what they went through and what they stood for, and the integrity. These people don't have integrity. They're just for themselves, trying to get out of it, get a pension.
So you buy.
That's it. And it's just become a virus, and it's spread over everything.
That's why I love what Mike Rowe is doing with his Mike Rowe Foundation, giving out scholarships for kids to go to trade schools.
Yep. And that even got lost. That was basically any kids that didn't do well in the standard curriculum.
Academics, right.
And in school.
Stick them in a metal shop, wood shop.
And let them earn a trade. And many of them did really, really well doing
I have
that.
now I'm getting all tongue-tied here. I have electrician friends. These guys are making a skibillion dollars. I have carpenter friends. They're making a skibillion dollars. I have plumber friends that are making a skibillion dollars. Welders are making a lot of money. Car mechanics are making I just paid $900 to get my car fixed.
So, but at one point, it became that you had to have higher grades to get into the VOTEC, vocational technical school around here. So if you didn't maintain your grade average, then you couldn't go to VOTEC. Now, how does that work? What are you doing? You're creating a generation of people that have nothing to do but stand around and they don't know what to do with themselves or can't do anything with themselves. They're just reliant on other people, government, and basically, I mean, I never understood that, why they did that. I mean, I do understand long term, you're trying to dumb down the population, you're trying to usher in your form of government, Marxist, socialist, whatever, that the big government is going to take care of you. Don't worry about it. The problem is they forget that unless you have the little people working, nobody's paying taxes. And government doesn't produce anything. They just live off of taxes. That's it.
Well, actually, Steve,
so if you have nobody paying taxes, what's the government going to do? Then, well, what's going to happen to the people that they can't support? Well, they're going to have to make a decision whether they're going to exist or not. And that's why all these countries that went over with was taken over by communist dictators or whatever, that's why you have these mass killings, basically, because the government can't afford it, because there's not enough jobs. They're controlling all the jobs. There's not enough support, so they just got to get rid of them.
Well, you're talking about the dumbing down, right? 40, 50 years ago, comedian Steve Allen, musician too, screenwriter, whatever, he wrote a book called The Dumbing Down of America, or The Dumbing of America. Fascinating read, and it's exactly what you just talked about. How, it's just going downhill,
right,
slowly but surely, and people are becoming illiterate.
Right.
And this is part of the problem right here.
Yep. So there was somebody that said, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody was talking about, government's changing and this same thing, Marxist, communist takeover. And you can call it whatever label you want to call it. It's just basically somebody in charge telling everybody else what to do. That's all it is. They control everything, and just the underlings just have to follow, or they're going to be dead, basically. But they said the problem is with these young people, they don't realize how much danger they're in, because when they finally get it,
it's too late.
When they finally get it and they're up against a wall with a firing squad, it's too frickin' late. And it's everybody's job that has any common sense to try and work out these, the people as best as possible, or wake them up, or whatever, because those people that are kind of brain dead as far as reality, they're ushering in all this stuff, and they're going to be the first casualties.
Right.
Because they don't need them.
Which is a perfect segue into this guy.
Yep.
Mamdani.
Right.
Who's running for mayor in New York City. This guy is a self-proclaimed communist. And he went off. Actually, a photo resurfaced recently of this guy giving the finger to a Christopher Columbus statue in New York City. And
it said, "Take it down."
Right.
His comment.
Yeah, he wanted the statue taken down.
Yep.
I mean, it's something else that bugs me is all these statues that got ripped down. But this guy is just nuts. And people voted for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's promising all this stuff, I think it was government grocery stores. Like, how dumb is that?
Right. Ask anybody that came from a communist country
right.
about government grocery stores. I've heard the stories. I've heard, growing up, in my lifetime, the different segments of my life, I've heard the horror stories of all these places that people have fled from. And he's saying the same thing. It's the same playbook. It's the same playbook.
It's nuts. But what cracked me up was he actually, instead of a Christopher Columbus statue, he wanted one of like Tony Bennett.
Right.
Or Walter Odosio, who's a communist partisan, right, and who killed Mussolini.
Now, didn't he put a vote up or something?
Yeah. So he put this thing up, right, and then the other guys were Sacco and Vanzetti, who were executed due to their communist beliefs, right? So he put this poll up, and guess who won? The two communists. It's like, are you kidding me? I would have rather gone with Tony Bennett, but like, just leave Christopher Columbus alone. So the Italians in New York are fighting back at this guy, or pushing back.
Right. Well, the whole New York should push back. I mean, this is nuts. I mean, this is really nuts. I don't know what they put in the water. Is it fluoride? I don't know, but you guys got to get your shit together here. I mean, you have no guns. You have no education. The degrees you're putting out the kids they're all have no frickin' work because the degree, it's a $80,000 piece of paper that means nothing. So, I mean, you can only have so many doctors and nurses before the population starts dying out, and we're not repopulating.
But even the doctors and nurses, nobody's going to medical school. Mm-hmm. There's a shortage of doctors and nurses now. Mm-hmm. And part of the problem, I've talked to some of my doctor buddies, and they said that part of the problem is government regulations. Mm-hmm. That and big pharma, the pharmaceutical industry, is telling them basically what they can and cannot do.
Right. You're not a doctor anymore. You're a government employee.
Right.
So you think of your health care is going to be any better by the government running it.
Wait.
Just get back to the grocery stores.
Now, healthcare, everybody's screaming about healthcare, right? There's healthcare, then there's health insurance. Mm-hmm. The insurance part is what everybody's screaming and yelling about. Mm-hmm. Healthcare is a whole different ballgame.
Right.
That's your relationship with your doctor, but everybody's screaming about healthcare. No, you're talking about health insurance, which is a whole different ballgame.
But what they do is they pick a word that'll kind of cover everything and make you think of something.
Right, just exactly, but it's wrong.
Just like this climate change thing.
Oh, please.
They've changed from global warming, because now the icebergs are expanding and they're not melting. So they had to change from global warming to climate change. So anything can be climate change. And
we just turned the air conditioner off so we didn't hear the hum.
Right.
That's climate change because it's getting warmer in here.
My opinion is climate change means the political climate of the population. That's what they want to change. And that's what they've been working on for decades. And again, if we go back to this mass formation and you look at what's progressed and you look at the slow movement of just the change getting into the minds of the young people and making them so dependent on something other than themselves. It's
funny you should mention this. I saw a video this morning. I wish I had it here, so I'll find a link and can put it up, maybe. It was this woman who she was on disability. There was nothing wrong with her. She admits it in this video that there's nothing wrong with her. Her significant other was being paid by the government to take care of her. Mm-hmm. Talk about a scam.
It's a scam, but the long term, in my view, the long-term goal is to take those two people and make them the example so that all of a sudden you've got half the community doing the same thing, living off the government.
These people were laughing about how they were scamming.
I get
the
it.
Medicaid
The problem
system.
is they're not doing anything. They're not contributing to their own existence by paying taxes. So eventually it's going to run out.
Yeah, right.
The money's going to run out because if you get everybody living off the government and there's no tax money coming in, how are they going to pay for all this stuff?
They can't.
Right. So what they don't realize is they are scamming not only just themselves, but kids, their families' existence. That's what's going to happen because eventually the government is going to have to choose, I got this much money and I got these people. And am I going to have the people that can fix the government stuff that needs to be fixing, or just the people that have been scamming us? It's a pretty easy choice for the government once they become so powerful to pick and choose who's going to live and die, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, I can go with that.
Yep.
I don't like it, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a progression, and they're going to infect their family. Their kids are going to want to live off the same way. It's
well, yeah,
easy.
it becomes a disease,
Right. And it just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading, and all of a sudden we got this nutbag in New York
he's
claiming about government grocery stores.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, this guy's absolutely out
And
of
all
his
this guy
mind.
wants is power. He's a slick frickin' salesman. Rich is counting how many frickins I do, so maybe you guys can help out. Put a tally in the...
Actually, he was pretty good tonight. I think there's like 4.
He's got a little clicker down here.
Yeah.
No, but he's just looking at power. That's all he's looking at, is to be able to control be in charge and pass these laws and big government so that he's taken care of and everybody else has to serve him.
I just can't believe people voted for this clown.
Yeah, well.
It's just unbelievable to me that people would actually fall for this crap and vote for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're told, your country's bad, your color's bad, your history's bad, you're doing everything wrong, and it's all somebody else's fault, what else are they going to do? They're just brainwashed into believing all this stuff. It's unbelievable.
I mean, isn't there any more people thinking for themselves? And to me, it's like here.
Well, they are thinking for themselves. That's all they're thinking of is themselves. That's what they're thinking on.
Maybe that was the wrong.
No, but I get what you're saying, but that's what they are doing is they're thinking for themselves. They're not thinking, how can I
better myself? That's
Right.
what I'd be thinking. It's like, well, how can I do something to better myself?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I was brought up.
Right. Yep.
Yep. I don't know. And speaking of mayors, Mayor Largemouth Bass in L.A.
Yeah.
Mayor
Another
Bass,
communist.
Yeah, this woman's nuts. She actually has been getting like lambasted by her own people in her city for interfering with ICE raids.
Mm-hmm.
She's telling them to go home, and they're just the ICE people are. I mean, they're just thumbing their noses.
Mm-hmm.
But this woman is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I
But she's
don't
on the
get it.
TV.
Yeah, she's on TV.
You
But where's it going to get her?
Well,
Ousted, I hope.
there's going to be... So, California, let's look at them, for instance. All the tech, all the progression that was made in California, where are all those companies going? They're leaving, right? Because of taxes, regulations, all that stuff. Then you have the fires that wiped out everything.
That
They're
just went away.
They're trying to rebuild.
But that just went away.
Yeah. But the people are still trying to get permits and regulations now. They can't have the septic system and all this other stuff. So what are they going to eventually do? They're going to have to leave.
And then what happens to the property? Low-income housing.
Well, it's going to be eminent domain, and they're going to put in, the government's going to put in low-income housing for the underlings that they want to support them. Support them or
vote for them.
Vote for them. So it's a slow progression of getting all the people that may be wanting to progress as a state and want things to happen. They've initially got them all to leave, and all you're left with is people that just want to follow you. And
who would follow her other than...
Well, if the government's giving them money and housing and food, and what else are you going to do? It's like the Robin Hood story where the townspeople are totally controlled by the sheriff because the king's off at on the Crusades or wherever it was, and the taxes and the beatings of the people and keep in line. It's the same thing. It's just that it's in a modern day now. So I keep saying too that people are we're mammals. We're habitual, and we keep going back to redoing things that have already been done. And if you don't learn from it, keep going. Everybody's seen those videos of all the gazelle crossing the Serengeti and getting to the river, and there's 300 crocodiles just waiting for one of them to jump in. They don't look to try and find a better way. They just know from instinct that that's where they came from, that's where they're going, and they don't try to better themselves. They just jump in the water and
get eaten.
So this is exactly the same thing.
Well, some of the critics of Karen Bass said if only Karen Bass worked as hard for fire victims in Los Angeles as she does criminal illegals, they're just beating her up.
Mm-hmm.
And Democrats aren't used to seeing the law being enforced.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That was Jeremy Redfern, communications director for Florida Republican AG James Utmeyer. And it's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe how it's like right in your face and people are ignoring it.
And again, with the going back to thinking for themselves, the nation's going to have to get together and save L.A., California, New York, because if you just move out and figure, I'm done with that, it's going to progress, and it's going to be the virus that just takes over the whole country eventually. So everybody has to get together and make sure that this doesn't happen, because it will progress. And you're thinking for yourself, you moved out, better taxes or whatever, and I left that all behind. Well, it's coming for you. It's coming for you.
But look what happened here. It's like we had really cheap taxes. Well, relatively speaking. And all these people moved in, and now the taxes are going up.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because we need more schools.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's funny is they closed a whole bunch of schools. And then this big influx of people during COVID. So now they're short on schools. So what happens? Taxes go up so they can build new schools.
Mm-hmm. And then once the population of children that go to the school starts dwindling,
then they don't sell them off again.
They don't reduce the taxes, do they?
No, never.
Yeah.
They
never
just
do
keep
that.
Going up.
Right, and that's what happens is they keep getting control. They keep taking a bite, and pretty soon the apple is nothing but a core. And they're getting to the point in New York and California, in my view, especially California. Washington State is not far from California's, position, but they're going to manage it, and then they're going to expand it. And like I said, if you think you moved to Florida or Texas or wherever here from New York, New Jersey, if you move it to Pennsylvania, it's still coming for you.
Oh, absolutely.
And you got to stop it. And the way you stop it is you talk enough sense into people before it gets too big in these areas, because they got the ports, they got all the fame of being that, New York, California, Hollywood. It's that's why it's chosen. They don't go for,
Peoria,
Hickory Creek, frickin' whereverville.
Six.
They take on the big chunks, and then they expand it from there. So
we have to get it to stop.
Yes, and you got to vote. And if you leave, you can't vote like you voted there. If you voted for this,
It's common sense, people, just common sense.
right? And what happens is, and that's another tactic, is they get people to leave, but they don't leave their politics that they fled. They bring it with
That's
them.
the part that blows me away.
And then
It's
all of a
I
sudden,
can't stand this, so they move and they
Right.
bring it with them, and then they expect to do the same thing here.
But that's a plan, so that they can spread the virus. Yeah, you get
No,
it?
I get it.
Yep.
I totally get
And
it.
then all of a sudden, you get the politicians that are sympathetic to this type of atmosphere, and then they start passing laws, and they start funding, and they start housing, and they start giving this and that. And while the working person is still, ready to have a heart attack because they were working 3 jobs and trying to put their kids just by paying their school taxes, not let alone college, day by day, they're funding everything by paying their taxes. And it's just, it has to stop. It has to stop.
You just the guy we were talking to today about his kid in college. His kid gets married, right? So he put the kid through college. The kid, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, that's a
So-
good example.
We want to get him on as a guest because he's fascinating. Anyhow, so the kid turns around and says, "Hey, Dad, guess what? Wifey and I are gonna. She got a job in like Ghana. I forgot what she did.
Some kind of math
teacher
I think we
or
were
something?
talking about math. I think we got on
No,
that.
he was going to teach math.
Okay.
The kid was going to. Yeah, my wife's got this job as a social worker,
some kind of teacher.
and then
was-
I'm going to teach math to, these kids in Ghana. And the old man said, "Well, you got to pay me back for the college education. This is how much you owe me if you're going to do that." Needless to say, the kid did not go.
Yes. Yeah, no, and that's what needs to happen. You have to make them understand that this is not
This is not fun
free.
and games, right?
No. And
I paid my college loans
Right.
back.
and if
It
you
wasn't
want to go
easy.
do it, go do it.
Yeah, right.
But not on my dime.
Exactly.
That's it.
And there it is. Our timer just dinged.
Yep. Well, it's been another fun-filled episode.
Absolutely. A whole hour went by, just like
I know.
with
it's
a
crazy.
phone call in between.
Yeah. So we got and the reason we're doing this, that's one of the comments is try to keep it around an hour. So that's what we're going to try to do. And hopefully we can maybe do a couple eventually and, get
And
posted.
even start live streaming.
Yeah.
We
That's
have to
the
get our
plan.
technology together first.
Yes, exactly.
We need more of a crew
right.
because this is the crew right
Yeah.
here.
We'll be down here like this trying to get something on.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine? So we'll see you next time.
Yep. Yeah, have a good week, and we'll talk soon. Have a good one. Hey, everybody. If you like what you see, best way to support us is to make sure you follow us, especially on Rumble.
Also on YouTube, TikTok, X, Instagram, and Truth Social.
We're Podpinions all across the social media platforms as well.
That's right. So don't forget to click the little notification button. It's that little bell thing. and you'll get notified when something new comes up.
That's right. You don't want to be last and have everybody else hear our Podpinions before you.
That's right. You want to be the first kid on the block with a Podpinion.
That's right. And don't forget to leave your comments.
That's right. Comments are important.
Yes.
Slam the follow button. This is Podpinions.